Where you going, Bear? Morning, you guys. Walking out here into the woods. I'm gonna check on our little piggies. Will's actually bringing a bale of straw over here. He's gonna drive it. We're gonna see how Mama Pig is doing. I don't actually make a lot of video over here, just because usually I'm drawn to the cows in the garden. So we have this little pen set up here. That is not how we've been doing our pigs. We've been moving them around, and the other pigs are being moved around. But we set this pen up because this big mama spot is getting pretty close to farrowing. You kind of see down here that her teats are starting to become more defined. And we have the young spot in here with her. Now this, a recap of what is like the current situation with our pigs, because I've talked about this some. You don't see that? I know this isn't my camera that shows things as well, but there's a big web right here. So, these are not pigs that are going to get eaten, so it's not fully Charlotte's Web, but your breakfast is coming. Now here are our movable pens where we have our boar, and then we have 2 feeder pigs, and so they get new ground regularly. Bear, are you talking to Dolly? Hey, Dolly girl. Alright, so Will's bringing over some more straw. We want to make sure there's ample bedding, because whenever Mama here is ready to farrow, she's going to want to have plenty of bedding. It's not cold, so it's not like a safety issue. It's more a comfort thing for her and to keep everything clean. And little Dolly here, I've just got her in with Mama. We put them together so they could get used to each other. Female pigs will farrow around each other. It's typically not an issue. They typically do not like hurt each other's babies, but I did want them to have the opportunity to really get acquainted with one another before Mama farrows. And I'm planning on keeping them together through that process unless I, for some reason, see an issue, and in which case we'll separate her. Dolly is not old enough to breed yet, and so she can't go in with the boar, and I don't want to put her in with the feeders because we feed them more heavily because we're wanting them to grow faster, whereas your breeders, you don't want them to get too big because that can cause problems with farrowing. So we want to make sure she's getting good nutrition and she's healthy, but we don't want to overfeed her. So these are both old spot females. Mama Pig, which is what we call her, she is from VW Family Farm. She came here with us from Arkansas. And then Dolly here, Justin and Rebecca Rhodes brought down to me this spring. So she was born there on their farm. And eventually I will get an old spot boar that's unrelated to both of these. And these will be the beginning of that breeding program. Now, right now, she is bred to the Mangalitsa boar, who came from our original line. So we brought a pregnant Mangalitsa with us here, and so he was born here. I just picked the best looking boar out of the litter and kept him intact, and that is who we bred to this old spot. My goal is to create a hybrid between the manga and the old spot because we really like the Mangalitsa meat. It's very good quality, but the lard content is very, very high and they take a lot longer to grow out. So our hope was that maybe by crossing them to the heritage breed old spot that we would get a faster growing pig with still the marbling of the Mangalitsa, but maybe a little bit more meat and a little less lard. And I think that's going to work out really well. Also, eventually I will get an old spot boar, and we'll do some pure old spots and we'll do some manga crosses. So my hope is to keep 2 boars and have the option. Oh, Dolly girl, this girl is so sweet. Oh, she's a sweet girl. Yes, she is. So we have handled these pigs a lot. With her especially, I mean, she came super friendly because the Rhodes were really personable with her. And we have been very intentional. I bring treats out here to her a lot and come out there and sit on that stump and just love on her. because I really would like to eventually maybe try some artificial insemination with our hogs to really get some like really good lines going. If you have never dealt much with pigs, they are so strong, deceivingly so. Like it's hard for me to express to you how strong a hog is. Even this little girl right here, I mean, she probably weighs, I mean, she seems so little. She probably weighs at least probably 200 pounds. I mean, she is solid. They are solid muscle. Right now, this little pig who doesn't even come up to my knee could like take off with me. If she could, there's no way. I could not wrestle her, pick her up, anything like that. So I need her to want me to touch her if I ever hope to artificially inseminate her. In order to successfully do that, she's gonna have to be on board. And so that is why she gets handled a lot, so that that's even a possibility. Mama was not handled a whole lot when she was this small, but we had a lot of pigs at that time, so she ended up being in with them. And she's warming up to us and letting us like touch her and bring her treats. But I think that if I tried to artificially inseminate Mama right now, that would be, one, extremely dangerous for me, but two, it would probably be a laughable attempt. So Dolly's kind of my hope on that being a possibility. And maybe I can get Mama to warm up to me, having her in close quarters, bribing her with food. Food is a powerful motivator. But that's why they're in this small pen right now. I'm gonna bring some more straw out here. I don't know when she's due, but I do know that she's bred. It's very obvious that she's bred. But she was in with the boar for like 3.5 months or something like that. So we are in the window of her being able to be due right now. She was in with him long enough that she could be due any day, but she could also not be due for another month or so, month or two. So over here on this side of the fence line, this actually isn't even our property. This land belongs to Papa T, but they let us keep our pigs over here. And you know, we've been working with them on some different things, so it's the fence line right there is our property line. It doesn't stop Bear from exploring though, right Bear? All right, let's go out into the barn. Jeremiah's actually not here this morning, and Wes is over here. I'm gonna go out here and we're gonna milk the cows. Good morning, girls. Hey Freya. Good morning, little darling. Baby. Hey Fern. Good morning. Hallie girl. You already milked her? You already milked her? That was fast, Liz. You're like, it's nothing. She does.
I don't know if it's a good thing or not. She might hate me and she didn't give me much milk.
Oh, really? Hope's like, it is my turn.
My turn. She thought it was her turn first. But I had to talk her out of that.
Alright guys, I had a little bit of a camera malfunction earlier and I did not get footage of milking. It's now evening, and before we get into the throes of the busy evening, I was taking some time to sit on the front porch and shell peas, and I decided I would turn the camera on and we would have a little chat. Last week my friend Daniel was here and I bought a bushel of purple whole peas at the farmer's market. And he and I sat on the front steps for, I don't know, hours, a few hours, and shelled half that bushel of peas, singing hymns and talking. And I don't guess he had ever sat and shelled peas before, but he said that was one of his favorite things. He really loved doing that. And I was like, you know, it is one of my favorite things to do also. I've made videos in the past where I mentioned that I don't really grow anything that needs to be shelled because I just don't have the time in this season of my life to shell peas. That's what I said. But I have discovered just this garden season that there's great value in making time for stuff like that. Tasks like this that allow you to sit, quiet your mind, busy your hands. They are so therapeutic, and it's so interesting because This winter, after we moved here, I got really sick. And I've talked about that some. Had some issues with my bladder. You know, have been finding the recovery in that, in a lot of things with like hormonal balance and just some different things. But, one thing that I have really found is managing stress levels obviously helps your immune system. And I have decided that I just have to make room for things like sitting and shelling peas. And I have found that I actually really love it. It's very time consuming. These are my chicken and dumplings, or they're sometimes called ham and gravy cow peas. They've been very prolific, which means there's been a lot of pea shelling. And it is just extremely, it's sweet to take the time to do this. And you know, I cannot imagine how much time in our culture and the way, you know, our habits of doing things, how much time do we spend like scrolling social media? How much time do we spend going down wormholes of things that take just as much time as this, but they don't quiet your mind? They stimulate your mind, maybe even potentially upset you, make you feel afraid. I mean, sure, sometimes we feel happy whenever we're doing those things. Sometimes we're learning. It's not all bad. I mean, obviously, I like social media. You know, it's enriched my life in a massive way. But I think that we have to be honest with ourselves and taking time to make the tasks that let our mind rest are really valuable. To me, I have begun to associate things like milking the cows and shelling peas with enjoying rest, embracing it. And you know, that is a massive part of the homesteading life that I think can get a little lost when we're looking at homesteads through the lens of social media. Papa T came over this morning when Wes and I were milking. We got rocking chairs out there in the milking room. It's intentionally cultivating restful spaces. And he sat out there and we talked for a while, and I love hearing his stories about when he was growing up. And his mother and his aunt, I mean, it was like their full-time job to grow the food for their families. They were, I mean, we call it homesteading, but that was just country life. I mean, they bought flour and sugar from the store, and otherwise it was grown. I mean, he was talking about them milling corn. You know, they'd grow corn and take the best of it and mill it down for their use, and the rest would go to the animals. And I love those stories, and I think that it's so fascinating to really get the real scope of what it means to grow your food. It's time consuming, but there are so many lovely tasks that are interwoven throughout the process that are in and of themselves very restful. There's things like milking cows. There's things like shelling peas. There's things like sitting with the canner. And there are so many things that are repetitive, and yes, there's some very, very hard work. And when you put it all together, you can look at it and you can think it's hard, especially if you've never done all that before. But ultimately, it has those restful places built in if we're willing to embrace them. And I recognize that in the past, you know, I was homesteading, trying to produce and achieve as much as possible on my goal list, which, you know, I mean, that did help get us to where we are. But one thing that I am learning, and I feel like it's wisdom, and that's why I'm sharing it with you, is it's okay to grow something like field peas that's going to require this time. The goal might not be as many jars as possible or as many pounds of food as possible. The goal might be just for an overall holistic life. And I have found that I like eating field peas. I showed you guys us cooking them the other day. Like, I like eating them. But I like shelling them just as much. I like what this task does for my heart. And we have to validate those things and treat them like they're important. That was kind of one of the things that Daniel and I were talking about when we were, you know,
sitting out here shelling peas. He said something along the lines of when he gets to sit down with someone like Papa T, when he gets to sit down and listen to stories like that, he never wants to miss an opportunity to gather that wisdom, you know, and hear those stories. And I think that something that we have, there's a curiosity in us, in humans, to hear stories like that. A curiosity of other people's lives and other people's experiences. And I think that maybe we have satisfied that with something way too fast-paced and extraordinary. And I go down the Reels wormhole. I, you know, get to watching videos about extraordinary things, the things that go viral that are, you know, crazy. You know, I mean, the amount of stuff that we get to see in our life, even secondhand through video and media and all that stuff, compared to what people experienced in their life 100 years ago, it's crazy to think about that. But when Daniel said that, it really got me to thinking. And, like, one of the things that I've always really wanted to do here on my channel is, I just like to turn the camera on. I just like it to be a regular walk around the farm. And I mean, I feel like my life is extraordinary and I love getting to share it, but like, I don't feel pressure to keep my videos under 5 minutes. I don't feel pressure, even when people say, well, you should do this. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like us exercising an appreciation for slow. So today I wanted you guys to shell peas with me. Have a little slow chat on the front porch, and maybe make a note in our minds to be intentional in the tasks that we choose and the rest that we build in, because this is productive, but it's very restful. And I hope that as a generation that is inundated by information, by thrilling and extraordinary and super funny and gotta grab your attention, gotta hold your attention, I hope that we can remain sensitive to slow, long stories and slow, restful tasks that are full of wisdom and rest and rejuvenation and the things that ultimately we really need for our souls to be healthy. So I just wanted to put that on your mind. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.